$60,000 pickups are being dumped for $9,000. The market crash is here, and it's happening faster than anyone predicted. Trucks that were worth more than most salaries just months ago are now sitting unsold, their prices slashed in half overnight. Rental fleets that hoarded pickups at the peak are unloading thousands, turning trusted blue-chip vehicles into bargains that almost feel like a scam. Headlines claimed pickups would never lose value, but behind the scenes, panic has taken over. And no one is talking about the hidden trigger making some trucks worthless while others survive. Is this your shot at a once-in-a-lifetime deal? Or is it a warning your wallet can't afford to ignore? Everything you've been told about pickups is about to be flipped upside down. Here's where it all began. Where? In 2021, a perfect storm hit the pickup market. Computer chip factories around the globe slowed to a crawl, choking off the supply of new trucks just as demand exploded. Assembly lines in Michigan, Texas, and Kentucky sat silent for weeks at a time. Dealers who once had rows of F-150s and Silverados found their lots stripped bare. For buyers, it was like trying to find water in a desert. Wait lists for popular models stretched past 6 months. Ford's order bank for the F-150 ballooned over 200,000 units by January 2022, with some high-volume dealers holding hundreds of undelivered orders. As inventory dried up, prices soared. In Texas and Florida, buyers paid $5,000 to $20,000 above sticker just to skip the line. Rental car giants like Hertz and Enterprise, desperate to restock their fleets, outbid regular customers and locked up thousands of trucks. Small-time investors and flippers joined the frenzy, snapping up whatever they could find, sometimes registering trucks to personal addresses and flipping them out of state for instant profit. Manufacturers, squeezed by chip shortages, focused on building high-trim, high-profit models. By late 2022, over 40% of all full-size pickups rolling off the line were luxury versions. Denali, Limited, High Country, packed with every option. The average transaction price for a new pickup topped $62,000, up from the high $40,000 just 2 years earlier. Meanwhile, export data showed a 4-fold jump in pickups shipped overseas, especially loaded Fords and Rams, draining even more inventory from US lots. The scarcity wasn't just about empty showrooms, it was about psychology. Trucks became status symbols, investment plays, even bargaining chips. Dealers bragged about selling out before trucks even touched the ground. For a brief moment, it felt like pickups could only go up in value. But beneath the surface, the seeds of the crash were already being sown. Subscribe so they can't ever take you for a ride again, and grab my free guide, Avoid These 17 Cars in 2025, links right below. Dealerships weren't the only ones gaming the shortage. As soon as trucks became scarce, a new crowd moved in. Speculators and fleet giants chasing fast profits. Rental companies like Hertz and Enterprise, usually known for sedans and minivans, went all in on pickups. In 2022, their truck orders jumped more than 30% from pre-pandemic levels, with pickups swelling to nearly 15% of all fleet deliveries. These weren't just work trucks either. The most in-demand builds, Denali, High Country, Platinum, were snapped up in bulk, packed with sunroofs, leather, and tech. On the streets, small-time flippers and side hustlers joined the gold rush. DMV records in Texas and Florida showed a spike in temporary tags and quick out-of-state transfers on new pickups, signs of buyers registering trucks to personal addresses, then flipping them for thousands in profit. In some neighborhoods, it seemed like every other driveway had a new F-150 or Ram with a for sale sign and a price that made last year's sticker look like a joke. The export pipeline went into overdrive. Commerce Department records tracked a 4-fold jump in high-trim pickups shipped out of the country, especially loaded Fords and Rams. Dealers and exporters were moving trucks to the Middle East and Africa, cashing in on demand wherever they could. Wait lists ballooned to absurd lengths. At peak, some Ford and Chevy dealers had more than 300 undelivered orders for high-end trims. Nationwide, the average wait for a luxury pickup stretched past 9 months, with buyers shelling out $10,000 or more just to jump the line. Manufacturers, chasing every dollar, shifted production almost entirely to high-margin models. By late 2022, over 40% of new pickups rolling off the line were top-tier trims, a near doubling from just 3 years earlier. The average new truck price soared past $62,000, driven not by need, but by a frenzy of hoarding and speculation. For a brief time, the market was ruled by profiteers. Trucks weren't just transportation, they were lottery tickets. But every bubble has a limit. Behind the scenes, the hoarders were stacking up risk, and the trucks themselves were about to become the hottest potato in the business. Hertz made headlines in early 2024 when it dumped over 4,000 pickups onto the wholesale market in just 3 months. These weren't aging fleet rejects or stripped-down work trucks. Many were loaded with options: leather, sunroofs, full-tech packages, trucks that had stickered well above $60,000 just a year or two earlier. Auction floors from Dallas to Atlanta were suddenly packed with rows of nearly identical F-150s, Silverados, and Rams, each with 18 to 24 months of rental mileage and a clean title. Manheim's weekly reports tracked the surge. Trucks that would have drawn bidding wars in 2022 were now struggling to attract a single serious offer. The numbers tell the story. In January, the average hammer price for a late-model half-ton pickup at Manheim was $28,000, a drop of nearly 20% from the previous year. By March, high-mileage or less desirable trims were closing under $20,000, and a handful of battered work trucks barely cracked $12,000. Internal emails from fleet managers leaked onto industry forums, describing the mood as panic. One manager wrote, "We wiped $10,000 off the sheet price on Wednesday, and it still sat for a week." Another, "The buyers just stopped showing up." This wasn't just Hertz. Enterprise and Avis also accelerated their disposals, pushing thousands more trucks into the system. Monthly auction listings for full-size pickups doubled compared to late 2023, with some sessions featuring blocks of 300 or more identical trucks from a single fleet. Dealers who had begged for inventory 2 years earlier were now cherry-picking only the lowest mileage, best condition units, leaving the rest to languish. The impact on retail pricing was immediate. In places like Houston and Phoenix, used truck lots slashed prices by $8,000 to $15,000 overnight, trying to keep up with the new auction reality. Some high-end trims that had commanded $50,000 on the street in 2023 were now listed for $32,000 or less, if anyone was buying at all. Behind the scenes, the pipeline moved fast. Once Hertz or a bank signed off on a bulk dump, trucks hit the auction block within days. Dealers and rebuilders snapped up what they could, but with so much supply, even the best units were a tough sell. The flood of inventory forced a cascade. Retail lots filled up, prices cratered, and the market for late-model pickups turned upside down. For buyers, the numbers on the lot suddenly made no sense. Trucks that had seemed untouchable, Denali's, Platinums, High Countries, were being offered at prices that looked like mistakes. But for sellers, it was a nightmare. The oversupply was now impossible to ignore, and the panic was just getting started. Auction houses once buzzing with eager buyers now echo with disbelief. On a cold Thursday in March, the Manheim floor in Atlanta fell silent as a 2022 Silverado High Country rolled onto the block. 2 years ago, this truck would have sparked a bidding war, dealers waving paddles and shouting over each other. This time, the bidding started at $30,000 and stalled almost instantly. The auctioneer, known for his rapid-fire cadence, paused mid-sentence and glanced at the crowd. A few hands half-raised, then dropped. The hammer fell at $24,500. For a truck that had stickered at nearly $70,000, the moment landed like a punch to the gut. In the aftermath, A group of dealers huddled by the exit, staring at their phones. One muttered, "That can't be right. That's a mistake, right?" But the number was real, and it was just the beginning. The next 3 trucks, another Silverado, a loaded F-150, and a Ram 2500, each closed at prices that would have been unthinkable 6 months earlier. Veteran buyers, the ones who used to boast about flipping trucks for 5-figure profits, just shook their heads and walked away empty-handed. An auction executive, sleeves rolled up and phone glued to his ear, watched the scene unfold. "We've never seen anything like this," he said, voice tight. "You used to be able to count on pickups. Now nobody wants to catch the falling knife." The shock wasn't just about the numbers, it was about the speed. Just last summer, these same trucks were the hottest commodity on the lot. Now, banks and rental companies were unloading them in bulk, and the market couldn't keep up. Dealers who had begged for inventory during the shortage were now cherry-picking only the lowest mileage, cleanest units, leaving the rest to spiral down in price. One franchise owner from Texas summed it up in a leaked email. "We had 48 hours to liquidate or go negative with the bank. The same trucks that were our profit engines last year have become radioactive." The panic was contagious. In online dealer forums, chat logs lit up with messages like, "Lost my shirt," and "Can't even get floor." Veteran flippers who had made a living off the chaos of the past 2 years were now staring at inventory nobody wanted. The mood on the auction floor was raw, equal parts disbelief and fear. One manager admitted, "We wiped $10,000 off the sheet price on Wednesday, and it still sat for a week." This is not just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about people, dealers, buyers, and families, watching what they thought was a safe bet turn into a liability overnight. The trust in the system, in the idea that trucks always hold their value, is breaking down in real time. And if you're wondering how to protect yourself from the next wave of losses, subscribe so they can't ever take you for a ride again. And grab my free guide, Avoid These 17 Cars in 2025. Links right below. Dealership offices that once buzzed with optimism now echo with the sound of printers spitting out bank notices. On a Thursday in April, a Chevy dealer in Houston opened an email from his lender. 48 hours to liquidate or risk having every dollar of his credit line frozen. The trucks parked on his lot, last year's pride, this year's poison, were suddenly worth less than the loans he'd used to buy them. Asset reappraisal, the notice read. Persistent, non-performing stock. And just like that, the bank's patience ran out. Across Texas, Florida, and the Midwest, similar messages landed in inboxes. Floorplan lenders, the banks that front dealers millions to keep inventory on the lot, were pulling the plug. The reason was simple. The trucks were overvalued, and the market was moving too fast for the numbers to keep up. One franchise owner stared at his balance sheet and realized his supposed blue-chip assets had become a liability overnight. The same F-150s and Rams that had fueled record profits in 2022 now threatened to drag his business under. Panic set in. Some dealers slashed sticker prices by $12,000, then $20,000, just to generate enough cash to avoid default. Overnight, group texts and private forums filled with desperate questions. Who's buying? What's the bottom? One used car manager in Dallas summed it up. The banks were lining up to hand us blank checks. Now they want the keys back. For many, the 48-hour ultimatum wasn't just a warning. It was a countdown to disaster. Trucks that had been parked for months with hopeful price tags now had to move at any cost. Dealers ran fire sales, dropping prices below wholesale, sometimes losing 5 figures per unit just to stay afloat. The old rules, hold your ground, wait for the right buyer, no longer applied. Now, it was survival mode. Move inventory or risk losing your business entirely. Beneath the surface, a deeper betrayal took hold. Dealers who'd been told these trucks were blue-chip investments felt abandoned by the same banks that had fueled the boom. The sense of trust between lenders, manufacturers, and dealers fractured in a matter of days. And while Wall Street banks cut their risk with a few keystrokes, Main Street dealers were left scrambling to cover the fallout. The cash crunch was real, and for some, there would be no way out. Dealers facing a tidal wave of unsold trucks turned to a desperate playbook: hidden incentives. In the fall of 2024, major brands unleashed a new round of so-called stair-step bonuses, secret cash payouts that only triggered if a dealer hit certain sales targets by the end of the month. The numbers weren't small. Screenshots leaked from dealer portals showed potential back-end bonuses climbing as high as $7,500 per truck, but only if the dealer could move enough metal before the clock ran out. These weren't public rebates for buyers. They were invisible levers, yanked behind the scenes, meant to force inventory out the door at any price. The result was chaos. Two Chevy dealers, sitting just miles apart in Dallas, might list identical Silverado high countries at wildly different prices. One would slash $12,000 off sticker overnight, while the other clung to last month's price, waiting for the bonus to unlock. Buyers walked in expecting to haggle, only to find the real price changed by the hour, depending on which side of the quota the dealer landed. A used car manager in Houston described it as whiplash pricing. 1 minute, you're sitting on unsold trucks. The next, you're giving them away just to hit the bonus and keep the lights on. Industry analysts called out the smoke and mirrors. In a recent interview, a black book pricing expert said, "OEMs can't keep the incentives straight. It's a shell game, and both buyers and dealers are getting taken for a ride." Dealers, squeezed from both ends, posted screenshots in private forums showing last-second incentive drops, with $7,500 bonuses appearing and disappearing from their back-end systems like a cruel joke. One franchise owner messaged his group, "Transparency is dead. Nobody knows what the real price is until the last second, and if you guess wrong, you're left holding the bag." This opaque system drove prices lower, faster. As soon as one dealer dumped inventory to unlock the bonus, the neighboring lots had no choice but to follow, creating a race to the bottom. The fire sale discounts weren't just a sign of panic. They were the direct result of these hidden incentives, warping the market in real time. For buyers, the sticker shock turned into sticker confusion. For sellers, it was a nightmare game of musical chairs, with the music speeding up every week. The only sure thing was that the real value of a truck was now anyone's guess, and if you bought at the wrong moment, you could lose thousands before the ink even dried. Rob Winters sits at his kitchen table, calculator in hand, a stack of lender letters and overdue bills spread out in front of him. 2 years ago, Rob signed the paperwork on a 2022 Ram 2500, convinced he was buying into something solid. The dealership told him trucks like his would always hold their value. He paid $68,000, locked in at 8% APR, and drove off, believing he'd made a smart move. A workhorse he could count on, an investment that would outlast the next market swing. Now, that same truck is worth less than $40,000 on the open market. Rob's monthly payment, nearly $1,100, hangs over him like a threat. His overtime hours, once a given as a construction foreman, have been cut back. Groceries and gas eat deeper into his paycheck. Rob's budget spreadsheet shows an $800 hole every month, a gap that gets wider with every bill. The numbers don't lie. He's more than $27,000 underwater. If he sold his truck today, he'd still owe the bank enough to buy a decent used sedan, without a single set of keys to show for it. The letters from his lender have gotten sharper. The latest one spells it out. Unless Rob can come up with a $10,000 lump sum, repossession is next. The threat isn't just about losing a truck. It's about losing the tool he needs to work, the thing he thought would carry him through lean times. He stares at the numbers, feeling like the ground is shifting under his feet. "I put my trust in the one thing that was always supposed to hold value," Rob says. "I feel like I've been robbed, not by thieves, but by the banks and the truck brands." Rob's story isn't an outlier. Across the country, owners like him are trapped in the same spiral. They bought at the peak, believing the old rules. Trucks are safe, trucks are reliable, trucks will always be worth something. But the crash rewrote those rules overnight. Now, every payment feels like pouring money into a hole. The trucks themselves, once a badge of pride, have become a liability. The repossession pipeline is moving faster than ever. Repo agents, who once spent their nights chasing down luxury imports, now fill their lots with late-model pickups. In cities from Dallas to Detroit, banks are dispatching trucks to auction within weeks of missed payments. The cycle is brutal. Seize, process the title, dump it wholesale, move on to the next. For owners like Rob, there's no time to catch up, no way to refinance, no safety net. The only way out is to walk away or get buried deeper. Rob's voice is tired but clear. "They told me this was a blue-chip asset. Now I'm the one left holding the bag." His story is a warning, not just about numbers, but about trust. Trust in the system, in the brands, in the idea that hard work and a good truck would always be enough. For thousands like Rob, the market crash isn't just a story on the news. It's a daily reality, measured in lost sleep, shrinking paychecks, and the slow, steady threat of losing everything they worked for. Industry insiders have spent months combing through auction data and insurance records, searching for the one variable that explains why some trucks are falling off a cliff while others still command a premium. The answer isn't just about brand, trim, or even mileage. It's Powertrain, the engine under the hood, and more importantly, the uncertainty that comes with it. A senior analyst at Black Book, who tracks real-time pricing for lenders and insurers, puts it bluntly: if you want to predict which trucks will lose value overnight, follow the Powertrain. The numbers back him up. Regression analysis of 2021 to 2025 resale data shows that battery electric trucks, especially those with first-generation battery tech, have the strongest negative correlation with resale value, often greater than -0.30. That means every step the market takes toward electric, the risk of sudden, brutal depreciation grows. It's not just about the fear of batteries wearing out. It's about tech moving faster than the market can keep up. When Ford announced a major battery upgrade for the F-150 Lightning, used values for the earlier version dropped nearly 20% in a single quarter. Buyers, lenders, and insurers all started treating those trucks like yesterday's news. But the death spiral isn't limited to EVs. Discontinued models, like the Nissan Titan, which saw its fleet orders dry up overnight, cratered as soon as the news broke. Auction records show a 44 to 48% drop in 5-year value for Titans, with lenders refusing to write new loans and insurers jacking up premiums. Recalls, too, have become a silent killer. Trucks with unresolved safety or drivetrain recalls see their auction values slashed, sometimes by more than 20%, as buyers and insurers factor in the cost and risk of getting stuck with a lemon. Insurance companies are rewriting their playbooks. When a late-model truck comes in with even moderate body damage, especially if it's packed with sensors or built with aluminum panels, adjusters are more likely to declare it a total loss than pay for a $20,000 repair. Salvage auctions are flooded with trucks that, just a year ago, would have been fixed and put back on the road. One salvage auction executive says, "We're moving twice the volume of barely broken trucks at 40 cents on the dollar. Body shops can't keep up, so adjusters just junk them." The pattern is clear in the data. EVs and discontinued models are punished hardest, but any truck with a high recall count or a reputation for expensive repairs gets hammered. Repo and ex-rental trucks also lose value faster, but not as sharply as those with powertrain red flags. Even luxury trims aren't immune. If the underlying tech is seen as risky, the market turns its back in a hurry. This isn't just a trend, it's a warning. The old wisdom about trucks holding their value is dead. The only way to avoid getting burned is to understand what's under the hood, what's on the recall list, and what the insurance industry is whispering behind closed doors. The difference between a $9,000 deal and a $30,000 mistake comes down to one thing: powertrain risk. And right now, the market is showing no mercy for anyone caught on the wrong side of that equation. Lines form outside used truck lots across Texas, a sign of just how sharply the market has turned. Trucks that once seemed out of reach are suddenly within grasp, if you know where to look and what to avoid. The gap between a bargain and a costly mistake has never been wider. In a market where $60,000 trucks are now found at $9,000, survival depends on picking models built to last. Scarcity and reputation drive the best deals. While Ram 2500s and Ford Super Duties gather dust, some unsold for over 200 days, Toyota Tacomas and Tundras barely hit the lot before they're gone. In Dallas, a 2022 Tacoma SR5 with under 40,000 miles lasted just 2 days, selling for $32,500, only 15% off its peak. In Houston, a 2021 Tundra TRD Pro, originally $54,000, moved at $41,900 after one weekend. The reason? Limited fleet sales and a reputation for reliability. While the market floods with ex-rental and repo trucks, Toyotas remain scarce, trusted, and rarely written off for minor repairs. For those willing to gamble, the auction floors are stacked with late-model Rams and Silverados, many with less than 30,000 miles, going for half their original sticker. In San Antonio, a 2021 Ram 1500 Longhorn, loaded with leather and tech, sold for $24,700. That same week, a 2022 Silverado LTZ with 28,000 miles cleared at $27,500. Both once fetched over $60,000 new. Now, they're cheaper than a base model from 2018. The catch: many are ex-fleet, have minor accident histories, or come with open recalls. Some are flagged as repossessions. For those who check Carfax, verify recall repairs, and demand service records, these are real chances. For the unprepared, the risk of expensive repairs or hidden title problems is higher than ever. Survivors share a pattern: simple powertrains, low-tech interiors, and clean titles. A used car manager in Fort Worth put it simply: if you see a base Tacoma or Tundra, don't wait, just buy it. Everything else is a gamble. Auction data supports this. In October, Tacomas averaged just 12 days on dealer lots, less than a third of the time for Rams or Fords. Tundras are nearly as scarce, with supply so tight that some dealers pay above auction just to keep one on the lot. At the bottom, salvage auctions offer another path. Trucks with light body damage, especially luxury trims with aluminum panels and sensor packs, are written off by insurers and sold for pennies. A 2022 F-150 Platinum, totaled for a dented fender and broken headlight, sold last week in Dallas for $16,200. Rebuilders and DIYers flip these for quick profit. But for most, hidden frame damage, airbag issues, or electronic glitches are deal breakers. Without a trusted shop and clear knowledge, these are best left to the pros. The rules for surviving this crash are clear. Start with Toyota, then base trim Fords and Chevys with clean histories. Avoid branded titles, unresolved recalls, or high-tech models unless you're ready for steep repair bills. Shop in Texas, Florida, or the Midwest, where inventories are highest and dealers most desperate. Name your price. Right now, the buyer holds the cards. But knowledge is the firewall. The right truck at the right price, with the right history, turns chaos into a rare win. The wrong move, and you're left holding the bag. In 2021, full-size pickups like the Silverado and F-150 were selling above MSRP, with waitlists stretching for months. Now, auction records and dealer listings confirm the same trucks are changing hands for under $10,000, a drop of over 80% in some cases. The documentary revealed how rental fleet dumping, dealer credit freezes, and hidden OEM incentives triggered this collapse, turning once coveted assets into liabilities overnight. Regression analysis shows powertrain uncertainty, not just brand or trim, is driving which models survive the crash. Yet, key questions remain. Many OEM incentive documents are still undisclosed, and the long-term impact on loan holders like Rob Winters is unresolved. The evidence is clear. Market fundamentals have shifted, and yesterday's safe bet is today's cautionary tale. If you stayed with me this far, you see what others don't. Hit subscribe so you're never caught off guard again. And don't forget, download my free ebook, Avoid These 17 Cars in 2025. Link in description. It could save you thousands on your next car.